Good afternoon, I'm Benjamin Henderson. Imagine a young airman trained broadly across many airframes, but never becoming a deep specialist. That is how the Air Force would like to move from its normal pace of training people how to be specialists in the career fields that they choose. How would that affect the squadron readiness and safety of the United States Air Force Maintenance Corps with such a change as to take people who are specialized and move them to more of a general track and a general specialty? Today, I'm going to explain the Air Force's plan to merge over 50 AFSCs into only 7, some of the intended benefits, some of the risks as to why that type of change would be extremely dangerous and not a very. Here's what the plan says and some of the reasons why leaders are proposing it. There was a memo sent out on January 24, 2025 to condense these 50 AFSCs into 7, with the first generalist AFSCs coming in September 2027. The rationale behind this was that 20% of the tasks that you get trained on are equivalent to about 80% of the work. So whenever a specialist gets trained on a lot of things, he ends up doing a lot of tasks that end up becoming the bulk of his work, but it's not very specialized in that sense. It's just there's a lot of stuff that you get trained on that you never end up seeing because it's just so niche for a specialty. So what their hope is that if you have a generalist, that you can have a generalist do the bulk majority of tasks and then have a specialty and a specialist make up for whatever the generalist cannot do. There's a quote from the Chief Master Sergeants of the maintenance career fields. It's Chief Master Sergeant Abby G. Cabin, Joseph L. Hicks, and Timothy M. Wells. The future force design leverages this and trains early career airmen on most common tasks, which will free up experienced airmen to focus on tasks that require more substantial expertise. So essentially, the structure would go, you would enter as a generalist, you would enter as someone who is just going to launch and recover aircraft, and then later in your career, as you've been familiarized with an aircraft, you would move on and become a specialist and then get trained into that specialty much later in your career than what the Air Force currently does now. What the Air Force currently does now is trains you in a specialty from the moment you graduate basic. You become an avionics specialist, and you're going to learn everything avionics, but you are not going to learn anything hydraulic, or you're not going to learn anything that a crew chief does. You're only going to get trained on what avionics systems you need to know. Whereas now, generalists will just get trained on an airframe. They will get trained on how an airframe work services operates, but they will not be trained on how to work on the specific systems. Now, all that sounds very sensible, but it does raise a lot of concerns. One of the specific concerns that this brings up is the current model of the Air Force and how we do our 7, 5, and 3 level. With the focused pipelines that the Air Force has now, a 7 level is someone who is trained in a specific system and has done the same tasks for a very long time, almost years by the time you're a 7 level. So you have done the same tasks over and over and over again. So you have very repeated and concentrated practices on those tasks so that if an aircraft were to come down, if you have 4 to 5 years of experience with that system and that system breaks, you're going to know very quickly the tasks that are needed in order to fix that aircraft. But the risk of this new merger will be that if everyone is generalized and they do not specialize until later, then they are only going to know the general of the aircraft. And as years develop with this generalist trick, you're going to have these specialties guys that are going to get out, or they're going to go away, or they're going to have so much burden on them because none of the people that are coming through the pipeline are going to know any of the specified tasks that they know. So the hope is that the generalist can help relieve that, but at the end, it's not going to relieve anything because right now, with the current model of things, if you're a 7 level avionics, you will get more people who are in the avionics specialty that are getting trained up and specified on the concentrated tasks that you know well so that you can train them to know well. But with the new generalist track, you cannot get them specialized because they're not going to be told to get specialized until later in their career. They're only going to worry about the generalist thing. So if you lose your seniority and you lose your experience, then it's going to have to get backfilled by the generalists who are never going to get trained on the same type of skill set that you were trained on your career. So that's going to have fewer technicians that know the trade well at a deep level. So that means you're not going to have avionics specialists that know the trade well, not going to have fuels that know the trade well, you're not going to know crew chiefs, hydro, aerospace ground equipment, aerospace field equipment, you're going to have a lot of problems getting these generalists spun up to the same level as some of the specialties. I have a quote here from Chris McGee, a retired master sergeant who spent 20 years in the career maintenance AFSC. He says, this type of merger undermines the flexibility to relocate personnel effectively. Instead of being able to move a hydro troop to help avionics when needed, you have a specialist for hydro and you can't go help someone else, and you have all these generalists everywhere, but you have no specialists everywhere. So if avionics said, hey, I have this problem with hydro, you would not have a hydro specialist. You'd have a generalist somewhere, and they would have to help you with your problem. But because they're not a specialist and they're not aware of all the tasks, because they haven't been trained yet, you're going to slow down maintenance and you're going to slow down the readiness of an airplane because there's no one there who has the same specialty. Whereas the Air Force now, everything's a specialty. We have all these career fields for specialty. So if I'm an avionics technician and I'm having a problem with an aircraft and it's a hydro thing, I can talk to a hydro specialist. But in the coming future, that hydro specialist might not be present anymore, and it would just be another generalist. In conclusion, this consolidation seeks agility but risks technical depth, specialty pipelines, and overburdening experienced maintainers. All of that affects the potential readiness and safety of units in the United States Air Force. Some of our aircraft are definitely going to be down longer because of this move, because all those specialties are what makes aircraft maintenance work for the United States Air Force. It's the fact that you have a bunch of subject matter experts who know how to fix an aircraft when it breaks. If you take away the career fields that are specialized and you combine them into others, then the amount of workload that you're consolidating is going to be too drastic to keep up with mission quotas and to keep up with flying hours. And the Air Force is definitely going to have rollback in their mind with this merger program. They are definitely going to have to look at metrics the second they come out of, if not Air Force units are still providing the same metrics as with this general's track and this merger than the legacy way that we've been doing things. I believe that it's something that didn't need to be changed. Um,